Coming up on Newswatch, a Huntington bar is declared a public nuisance after a deadly shooting.
Plus, crews in Cape Canaveral, Florida are hours away from the launch of an Artemis 1.
And in sports, as the Bobcats hit the road this week, one receiver is catching the eyes of the nation. Newswatch starts right now. Good evening, I'm Madison Moore.
And I'm Silver Barker. Welcome to Newswatch, your source for news impacting southeastern Ohio. A new resolution declares a Huntington bar a public nuisance.
Huntington City Council members voted unanimously last night to pass the resolution and eliminate Premier Pub and Grill. The vote comes after a deadly shooting took place on November 4th outside the bar that killed an employee of a neighboring restaurant. A formal complaint filed in Cabell County Circuit Court on November 10th stated that 4 people were shot near the bar in the past 8 months. City Attorney Scott Dameron pointed out multiple shootings connected to the bar, including the most recent one. He also raised concerns about the bar's proximity to Marshall University's campus, claiming it could put students in danger. The bar surrendered its liquor license over the weekend. Walmart has agreed to pay $3.1 billion to settle opioid lawsuits in multiple states, including Ohio. Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost and 15 other attorney generals, in partnership with attorneys representing local governments in their respective states, worked out the preliminary deal, which stems from Walmart's failure to properly oversee the dispensing of opioids nationwide. Ohio is expected to receive more than $114 million. The funds Ohio receives must be used to provide treatment and recovery services to people struggling with opioid use disorder. The retail giant would also be required to make robust improvements in the oversight of its pharmacies as part of the settlement. Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost also announced today that Ohio and 39 other states have reached a multi-state settlement with Google over the company's deceptive location tracking practices. The $391.5 million settlement is the largest multi-state privacy settlement in U.S. history. Ohio will receive nearly $13.4 million from the settlement. The coalition of attorneys general opened the Google investigation after receiving reports of Google tracking users even after the users had turned off the location tracking feature in account settings. The attorneys general found that Google had violated Ohio's Consumer Sales Practices Act by misleading customers about its location tracking practices since at least 2014.
The Ohio State Board of Education could vote on a resolution later today that would push back on a Biden administration anti-discrimination policy. The resolution is an amended version of an earlier proposed resolution that backs Ohio anti-trans bill considered by lawmakers and Attorney General Dave Yost's lawsuit against the Biden administration. Backers of the proposal say it's needed to give schools guidance. They also fear new federal rules to Title IX would require schools to investigate claims of discrimination or risk losing federal dollars for school lunch programs. This week is Winter Weather Awareness Week in Ohio and West Virginia. We are joined today by lead forecaster Erin Ashley, who has a little glimpse of what this winter will look like and why.
Thank you so much, Silver. As someone who is currently studying weather patterns, I figured for today's segment of Winter Weather Awareness Week, I would dive a little bit deeper into what drives winter weather patterns. And so, winter weather conditions are dependent on the pattern of sea surface temperatures in the central and eastern tropical Pacific Ocean. This climate pattern is called the El Niño Southern Oscillation Pattern. The two extremes include El Niño and La Niña. We are currently in a La Niña phase, which brings cooler temperatures in the north and warmer temperatures to the south. Lead forecaster of Scalia Lab, Maddie Zaremka, says that since we are currently in the middle of a La Niña phase, we can expect this winter to be similar to recent weather seasons.
Going back to climate models, we can look at past and current trends to predict if a winter is going to be particularly cold. Mentioning that La Niña pattern again, this is the 3rd year in a row that the U.S. is going to be experiencing these conditions. And based on the general pattern,
and like Maddie said, and along the lines of what we have here in the United States, that La Nina pattern, is really shining through, especially earlier today. We saw some mixed precipitation earlier this morning, saw even some accumulation, a little bit of accretion, on the sidewalks, but that didn't last too long as temperatures began to rise, and we saw that chance for rain appear in the area in the early afternoon as that snow began to advance out towards the east. But if we look at the high for today, we saw that temperatures didn't get too warm in the low 40s for the majority of today, and rain is going to be expected throughout the evening, actually tonight. So if we look at all of those clouds above us right now, if you aren't seeing rain in your area right now, you're definitely seeing those clouds. And so I'll talk about my full forecast when the chance for showers really begins to start to diminish, as well as what to prepare for in terms of these really freezing conditions. Silver?
Thanks, Erin. Firefighters are still working to contain the Kimball fire in the southern portion of Wayne National Forest. The 1,380-acre fire is 30% contained as of last night. 74 firefighters were on the scene, and fire crews from multiple states and the Forest Service aided in the fight. The current weather also has played a role in firefighting efforts. Firefighters will continue to mop up and patrol the fire's edge and extinguish the heat, any areas of heat that may be of concern. An update on the fire is set to be announced tomorrow.
Athens County is closer to extending the Hockhocking-Adena Bikeway into the village of Chauncey after completing paperwork to acquire most of the properties needed to extend the path. The extension will begin at River Road and includes a bridge over the Hocking River. It will run along the bank of Coal Run Creek and end at Main Street in Chauncey near the intersection with First Street. The county is still working on acquiring property owned by New York Coal Company. The estimated cost of the project is $2.2 million. In 2017, ODOT awarded the county $1.5 million for the first phase of extending the bike path to Chauncey. Commissioner Chris Chimmel noted that the bike path extension has been many years in the making. Coming up after the break, 2 missiles or rockets strike Poland near the Ukrainian border. Plus, why Forbes might need to keep revising its list of the world's richest people. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
Zero and infinity. Mind-bending ideas. Discover how these concepts revolutionized mathematics.
The simplest ideas end up the most influential, the most profound.
Whoa! It's the story of nothing.
Who knew you could learn so much from pizza?
And everything.
It's all one big principle.
Zero to infinity on Nova.
Wednesday at 9 on WOUB.
Southeast Ohio football is as exciting as ever, and Gridiron Glory covers all the action from your team. 8 conferences bring the biggest stories from the 7-4-0, whether it's on our show every Friday night or on social media as one of our many digital games. So follow along, because Gridiron Glory is about more than just winning. It's community, it's pride, and it's tradition. So remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
Now streaming on the PBS app, Antiques Road Trip.
I like it.
20 seasons.
Ooh, pretty good, yeah.
Of antiques experts.
Oh, stop it.
Scouring Britain in classic cars.
Yeah, baby.
On the hunt for hidden treasures.
I think I found something.
It's brilliant.
The goal? To make the biggest profit at auction.
You're some man.
There'll be worthy winners and valiant losers. Antiques Road Trip. Stream all episodes now with Passport on the PBS app.
Far to the north, there's a winter wonderland, famous the world over, where lights dance in a star-filled sky, where the sun shines in the middle of the night. Up here, the land is always changing, bringing drama and wonder. This is Lapland, a place so full of magic, it's even said to be the home of Santa Claus.
Wednesday at 8 on WOUB.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky presented a proposal for peace at the G20 summit today. During his proposal, Russia launched new rounds of missile strikes across the country. Meanwhile, parts of Ukraine are celebrating liberation from Russian forces. However, the end of the conflict remains out of sight. Chris Gwynn is in Washington with the latest.
As air raid sirens ring across Ukraine, there are reports that 2 missiles or rockets struck Poland near the Ukrainian border, killing at least 2 people. It's unclear from where the projectiles originated, but they landed at roughly the same time as a Russian missile strike on western Ukraine. The incident occurring after Ukrainians were warned to expect more attacks from Russia.
Mostly on energy infrastructure. We can see what the enemy wants. They will not succeed.
Russian missiles struck about a dozen Ukrainian cities and districts on Tuesday, marking the largest wave of attacks on the country this month following several devastating rounds in October. Senior Ukrainian officials say at least half of the customers in Kyiv have no electricity after Russian strikes forced emergency outages. The attacks come after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky presented a 10-point peace plan to end Russia's invasion in a video speech to G20 leaders.
We will not allow Russia to wait it out, build up its forces, and then start a new series of terror and global destabilization.
The steps include a path to nuclear safety, food security, and a special tribunal for alleged Russian war crimes.
I am convinced now is the time when the Russian destructive war must and can be stopped.
A Kremlin spokesperson says Russia has seen Zelensky's proposal, but doesn't believe the Ukrainian government wants to negotiate in good faith. In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn reporting.
President Joe Biden reports he has been briefed on the incidents and will be speaking with the president of Poland, Andrzej Duda, a NATO ally, shortly.
It's been a rough few months for some of the biggest names in Silicon Valley. Forbes might need to keep revising its list of the world's richest people. Elon Musk holds the top spot on the Forbes ranking currently, but he's expected to testify in court this week about his Tesla compensation package. On top of that, Musk says Twitter could go bankrupt. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is the world's 4th richest person. Just yesterday, he said he'd donate most of his wealth during his lifetime. Finally, last month, Meta reported a 50% drop in its quarterly profits. Forbes reported in September Mark Zuckerberg fell off its list of the 10 richest people in the U.S., let alone the world. Meanwhile, the companies the 3 men founded are laying off thousands of employees. Most of them don't have spare billions to fall back on. NASA is taking one major step for humanity to reach the moon and beyond today. The mission is in the first phase of a new era of lunar exploration called Artemis. Crews in Cape Canaveral, Florida are hours away from the launch of the Mega Moon rocket. Ivan Rodriguez is in Florida with a look at why the 3rd time may be the charm for the launch.
I feel good headed into this attempt.
After several delays and setbacks, the Artemis 1 team is hopeful Wednesday will be the day they finally get the Mega Moon rocket off the ground. The mission aims to eventually take humans to the moon for the first time in more than 50 years.
Artemis is our new set of missions within NASA, where we will land the first woman and the first person of color on the moon in just a few years.
Issues with a faulty temperature sensor and a liquid hydrogen leak scrubbed the first 2 launch attempts, forcing crews to stow away the rocket and capsule for several weeks. And then, weather also played a major role. If Wednesday's launch attempt is a success, it will be a major milestone for NASA, as astronauts hope to collect lunar samples and map the mysterious southern region of the moon when the crewed spacecraft launches expected in 2024.
So it's going to be a much different terrain for them to have to navigate, for them to have to keep the rover safe, keep themselves safe.
It's been a long road for the Artemis 1 launch. First, Hurricane Ian in September, then Hurricane Nicole hit last week, causing several issues. Caulking came loose on the spacecraft, water leaked into the crew access arm, which astronauts would need to use to board the capsule. And there was a rip in the rain cover which protects one of the rocket's engines. But now, NASA seems to think their 3rd launch attempt may be the charm.
It takes a lot of technology and a lot of operations and a lot of people to make this possible.
In Florida, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
Why more Americans than ever missed work last month? That story's still ahead.
Remain very, very cold around that freezing mark. Find out where they're going in my full forecast, but meanwhile, check us out on social media. We have it on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter.
Southeast Ohio football is as exciting as ever, and Gridiron Glory covers all the action from your team. 8 conferences bring the biggest stories from the 7-4-0, whether it's on our show every Friday night or on social media as one of our many digital games. So follow along because Gridiron Glory is about more than just winning. It's community, it's pride, and it's tradition. So remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
If you ask people, where does America start? They'll say it starts in Plymouth Rock.
There's more to the story than the story we all know.
They were a very small group of very extreme people.
They weren't the people that you would expect to be founding a new colony.
There's a sense that they came to America in search of religious freedom. They didn't.
The Pilgrims on American Experience.
Thursday at 9 on WOUB.
Far to the north, there's a winter wonderland, famous the world over, where lights dance in a star-filled sky, where the sun shines in the middle of the night. Up here, the land is always changing, bringing drama and wonder. This is Lapland, a place so full of magic, it's even said to be the home of Santa Claus.
Wednesday at 8 on WOUB.
Zero and infinity. Mind-bending ideas. Discover how these concepts revolutionized mathematics.
The simplest ideas end up the most influential, the most profound.
Whoa! It's the story of nothing.
Who knew you could learn so much from pizza?
And everything.
It's all one big principle.
Zero to infinity on Nova.
Wednesday at 9 on WOUB.
Welcome back, and I hope you've stayed dry out there because the majority of our area saw rain basically all day. We sat at a 90% chance for the majority of our viewing area the entire day, and that temperature in combination with that rain, it's been a very, very brisk day. Temperatures in the low 40s to upper 30s. Earlier in the day, we have since warmed up a tiny bit, but expect to cool down close to freezing heading into tonight. Again, that's because we have that chance of showers with that cold front and low pressure system that came in earlier. And with that, again, bundle up tonight, and we cannot rule out a chance for showers heading throughout the night tonight because, again, if we look at our live radar, you can really see that the chance for rain still exists in the majority part of our area, especially out towards the west. Over there next to Chillicothe, even Waverly. But if we go ahead and expand it a little bit further to kind of look out what's happening towards the west in the plains and see how it affects us here, we can see that we have low pressure existing still out there towards the west, and that'll be the cause for some the clouds to stick around over the next couple of days. But more importantly, expect those temperatures to really stick around. We aren't expecting too much of a warm up heading throughout the rest of the day, and in fact, because of that weather that we had moving throughout the day earlier, parts of our viewing area did see the chance for some winter weather advisories issued by the National Weather Service, but since the system has advanced out towards the east, those chances of winter weather have decreased as that temperature began to warm up. So if we look at tomorrow, unfortunately, temperatures aren't looking too much warmer, and that again is in combination with the cold front and low pressure system that moves into our area. But again, those clouds are not going to make it feel any warmer, and look at that low temperature. We're seeing lows in the upper 20s to middle 20s, and even heading throughout the weekend, it's going to get even colder. On Friday, expect temperatures to kind of exist in the mid-30s for the highs. In combination with those clouds, it's really not going to get too warm this weekend, even though we are seeing that sun start to appear. But as you can see, throughout the entire weekend, they remain pretty consistent in the mid-30s, and those low temperatures are looking freezing. And I mean freezing in the upper teens. 17 degrees is going to be the low for both Friday and Saturday. So if we look at the week ahead, clouds will stick around throughout the majority of this remaining week. And expect that sun to start to make its appearance as soon as Saturday. We're really not going to see too much warming as a result, unfortunately. So make sure you keep out the winter coats heading throughout the week today and into that weekend, despite the sun starting to appear. Expect that sun to really appear throughout the beginning of next week, and as a result, we do see a brief warm-up. Madison?
Thanks, Erin. A combination of RSV and the flu has claimed the life of a young child. And RSV isn't just a major concern for children anymore. Hospitalizations are now up amongst seniors. Isabel Rosales has the latest.
She was gray and limp. She wouldn't react to you touching her.
As an infant recovers from RSV and children across the nation battle the surge in respiratory illnesses, parents are suffering alongside them.
They tried to intubate her 7 times. And then they had to do CPR for 4.5 minutes because they lost her heartbeat.
In California, the state's health department reporting the first death of this winter season. A child under the age of 5 has died from RSV and the flu. The health department saying in a statement, this tragic event serves as a stark reminder that respiratory viruses can be deadly, especially in very young children and infants. We're entering a busy winter virus season with RSV, flu, and COVID-19 spreading, and urge parents and guardians to vaccinate their children as soon as possible against flu and COVID-19. In Washington state, emergency departments are in crisis mode.
We are bordering, if not already, in disaster mode in our emergency departments across the state.
Many are exceeding 100% of their available capacity, and this is especially true for pediatric emergency departments.
The overwhelming impact on the nation's healthcare system is expanding past children. The CDC is reporting seniors are now 10 times more likely to be hospitalized with RSV than is typical for this time of year. I'm Isabel Rosales reporting.
According to new data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, more Americans than ever missed work last month due to childcare issues. And there's been a spike in viral sicknesses among children and their parents, including from the flu, RSV, COVID-19, and the common cold that paired with continued staffing problems for schools and daycare facilities made the perfect storm. More than 100,000 people couldn't make it into their workplace in October, an all-time high. It's the most common mental health concern facing Americans. Millions suffer from anxiety in the U.S. While medication and therapy can help, those options may not be right for everyone. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on new research, which suggests there may be another option that may be equally effective.
Concerns over health, money, family problems can cause occasional worry, but for those who suffer from anxiety disorders, the concerns may not go away and may worsen in time.
It has a profound effect on people's lives.
Anxiety can lead to symptoms like constant worry, trouble sleeping or concentrating, irritability, and more. Psychotherapy and medication like Lexapro to treat depression and anxiety can help.
It's a great drug. I prescribe it all the time, but it could be that not everyone's interested in taking a medication.
That's why Dr. Elizabeth Hoagie wanted to study another option for anxiety treatment, mindfulness meditation. The researchers studied more than 275 adults with untreated anxiety disorders. Half the patients received a generic form of Lexapro. The other half were assigned an 8-week course in mindfulness stress reduction.
And found that they were roughly equivalent in effect, reducing anxiety symptoms by about 30%.
Hoagie says meditation could potentially be prescribed instead of medication for some patients, but says it does take time to make it effective.
Participants were enrolled in a class for 2.5 hours a week, and they also had homework assignments nearly every day for about 40 minutes.
Hoagie says anyone interested should talk to a primary care provider about their options. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
When we come back, an Ohio University football player shares his journey as an athlete. More on why it's unique.
If you ask people, where does America start? They'll say it starts in Plymouth Rock.
There's more to the story than the story we all know.
They were a very small group of very extreme people.
They weren't the people that you would expect to be founding a new colony.
There's a sense that they came to America in search of religious freedom. They didn't.
The Pilgrims on American Experience.
Thursday at 9 on WOUB.
Southeast Ohio football is as exciting as ever, and Gridiron Glory covers all the action from your team. 8 conferences bring the biggest stories from the 7-4-0, whether it's on our show every Friday night or on social media as one of our many digital games. So follow along because Gridiron Glory is about more than just winning. It's community, it's pride, and its tradition. So remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
Far to the north, there's a winter wonderland, famous the world over, where lights dance in a star-filled sky, where the sun shines in the middle of the night. Up here, the land is always changing, bringing drama and wonder. This is Lapland, a place so full of magic, it's even said to be the home of Santa Claus.
Wednesday at 8 on WOUB.
Brian just threw away the rule book.
The level of musicianship, I don't think anybody's touched it yet.
People say Brian's a genius.
And the pressure that comes with that.
You know there's something going on with Brian Wilson.
The idea of doing an interview makes Brian nervous, so he'll often ask if we can just take a drive and listen to some music.
The rooftop is down. The story begins.
It was a trip.
Friday at 10 on WOUB.
As the Bobcats hit the road this week, one receiver is catching the eyes of the nation.
Newswatch reporter Ethan Sargent has more on his unique path to Athens.
The success stories continue to roll in for the 7-3 Ohio football team, who are inching closer to a MAC title berth. While there's headlines all over the field, one name stands out: Sam Wiglutz. He's forged an instant connection with Curtis Work and garnered national attention for his performances. He had a unique path to Peden Stadium and the Bobcats football program. After graduating from Brecksville Broadview Heights High School in Northeast Ohio, he walked on at Ohio State, otherwise known as wide receiver U. Led by Hallmark receivers coach Brian Hartline, the Buckeyes have sent countless talented receivers to the NFL, and the talent just keeps on flowing in Columbus, as Marvin Harrison Jr. has been one of the best receivers in the country in a stacked receiver room. Marvin Harrison Jr. and a number of the Buckeyes receivers came to Peden Stadium to watch as Wiglutz put up 131 yards and 2 scores in Ohio's 45-24 victory over Buffalo 2 weeks ago. And after learning under and with the best, Wiglutz credits plenty of his success this season to his tutelage under Hartline and the brotherhood at OSU.
There's guys that may be faster than others, stronger than others, or neither of those things. I might not be the most physically gifted, but I took a lot away from what he taught. And there's guys of all different kinds of statures and builds that came from Ohio State and are doing well in the NFL.
His development has not slowed down in Athens. Dwayne Dixon is also one of the premier receiver coaches in the country, and he's continued to push Sam to reach the highest level.
Sam's a good coachable player that takes the information from the classroom, the illustrations he sees, he's able to matriculate it and make it useful on the field. He's one of those guys that he loves the game, he loves competing. He's been at a place that he's seen some great players play, and he wants his opportunity.
Wiglutz has exploded onto the college football scene with 59 catches for 714 yards and 9 touchdowns through 10 games, and he's far from finished.
So far, I think we're very happy with where we're at. Every goal that we could have had preseason is still in front of us, so that's all you can ask for, getting late into the season. So just got to keep executing, and hopefully we'll end up where we want to be.
As the Bobcats continue their push for a first MAC title since 1968, they'll count on Wiglutz to lead a talented receiver room. Reporting for Newswatch, I'm Ethan Sargent.
Wiglutz will look to carry the Bobcats to their first trip to Detroit for the MAC title game since 2016. And that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. I'm Silver Barker.
And I'm Madison Moore. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at WOUB.org. Have a great night.
Support comes from Visit Athens County. More information can be found at AthensOhio.com. Athens, it's more than a place. Support comes from Hocking Valley Bank, offering mortgage loans,